Okay, so what are you saying, people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today, guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you. On the screen are the pairs that we'll be analyzing today, but make sure you do stay to the end of the video, as I do have a bonus pair in store. We'll quickly go through my trades for the week and then progress into the analysis shortly afterwards. If there is a particular pair you do want to see my analysis to, feel free to skip ahead using the timestamps below. But I had no new trades this week. I was looking at a few pairs, didn't quite sit up for me, especially pound CAD. But I still do have a CAD yen trade, which I took a couple weeks ago now. And I'm still holding, still looking to trail stops and continue that back into 103. And we've gone through this trade a few times now because I'm still holding onto it. But my stops are still trailed just above this low here, just above 109.5. I'm being very loose with my stops because the idea is that I'm looking for the yen pairs to really drop. We did see a bit of continuation there on Friday. Everything is still looking very bearish overall. This is the daily chart. The idea is that I'm looking to catch that swing high and swing it back to the swing low, which is down at 103. I spoke a lot about the weekly time frame. Look at that really strong candle close last week. This week a little bit bearish, but mainly just continue the momentum from the previous week. So I still do expect more downside, and we'll go into this in a bit more detail about what setups we can look to take next week. But for now, that's the only position I have running, and just looking to trail that back to 103. So hopefully we can see that happen pretty soon. But going over to the DXY, and then we'll go through the rest of the markets we're looking at. So dollar, I've been speaking about shorts. Again, we're trading at an area where I only want to short from anyways. If the market is going to break through this and continue that uptrend, then I want to see a strong break of the high of 107, this area of resistance. I want that to be broken through. And then I can speak about some buys above that, and we can talk about potentially a push to 113. But at the moment in time, still rejecting this area, big push through the high, strong bearish close last week. So I am looking at more downside into next week. We have shifted in structure in the 4-hour time frame. We broke through the swing low over here, create a new low, or high, but we are failing to break through the lows now. So for me to continue be looking for shorts on USD, I need price to now go and break through the low more convincingly, and then we can look for that next lower high and the continuation. If not, we could very much use this support to potentially continue that uptrend we've seen over the past few weeks, and maybe from this area we might see a lot of upside and break the high. And like I said, I want price to really just take out the high completely. That's when I'll be back bullish again on USD, because at least that at that point we've broken through that weekly level, and then there should not be too much obstacles in our way, and we should see that trend sustain. So that's the only way I'll be bullish on USD, especially as a swing trader. But for me, I'm still bearish, still rejecting 107 pretty well. So I want price to create some new lows, look for the next lower high, and look for some shorts. So that's the idea, that's the bias with USD. So taking that into Euro USD, I'm pretty much looking at the inverse. Again, if I scoot to the weekly time frame really quickly, you can see it's the same situation. Broke through the lows, strong rejection off that area, still holding that support. So for me to be bearish, I need price to break through that. Drop to the 4-hour chart. We're starting to put some higher lows in. We're starting to shift in structure as well. We just pinched the high there, didn't get a solid candle close. So again, with Euro, I'm waiting for Euro to push the upside, break through the high, and look for some opportunities on the back of that for a push, possibly back to 1.076. Potentially higher as well. If we're really going to reject this weekly level, there could be a lot of upside in store for Euro. But for now, this is the setup I'm looking at. Price is still quite corrective. You can almost call that consolidation. So if we can see a sharp break to the upside for a lot of momentum, that'll be the signal that says, okay, the buyers are really stepping into the market. Sellers can't push price further than this point, and we could be expecting a bit of a reversal. So that's the idea there with Euro, waiting for 1.06 to break, and that's when I'll be looking at opportunities to take price higher. And as I said, 1.076 looks like a realistic target for some buys. So that's the plan next week for Euro USD. Okay, so over to dollar yen. So dollar yen still very bearish. As I've been saying, I'm very bearish across the board on the yen pairs. This is the weekly chart, really strong close to the downside. Last week, this week not so much, bit of a doji, but more or less we are back below this area of resistance, which is the key area I've been focusing on the weekly chart to see if price respects this level, breaks through, and it looks like we had a bit of a fake out, but price is firmly back below. And if we can keep that up next week, I do see a lot more downside there for dollar yen. So dropping back down to the 4-hour chart, the idea is that I'm looking for a pullback of that momentum from a couple of weeks ago and looking for some downside off the back of that. I've highlighted a couple of areas which I do like the shorts. I do prefer 153.500. A deeper pullback would be what I would be interested in. But as I've been saying, the yen pairs just look very bearish at the moment in time, and I don't think we might see that bigger pullback. So it's an area which I'll keep a close eye on. If we do get there, I'm very interested for the shorts, but because momentum is so strong, we might just see a pullback to 151.500 and then continue from there. So we might not see the bigger pullback just because the market is seeing so much bearish momentum, but it's still a good opportunity nonetheless. So if it does come around, I will definitely keep an eye on it. But the idea is looking for that lower high, at least to push back to the low this week. I do think we can go a lot further than that. Longer term, I do think 140 is the target to look for. So if you're trading stops, that's something to keep an eye out for. But realistically, push back to low, that 149 is a reasonable target for next week. So that's the plan there going to next week for dollar yen. Okay, so over to dollar CAD. So dollar CAD, it looks like we're seeing some bullish momentum coming back into the market. I was not expecting that. I was looking for a bit of a reversal. Price had a strong break above the high here, but after the monthly candle closure, after last week's candle closure as well, that big wick to the upside, I wasn't convinced. So I was looking for the break of structure for some shorts, but it never happened. If I drop to the 4-hour chart, I was waiting to see if price can break through the low here. Never happened, and price is still looking like it's pushing to the upside. So this could be a situation where we are respecting this weekly level of support, and we possibly could be on for a really big break to the upside. So what I want to see next week for dollar CAD is confirmation of that structure continuing, which is some new highs above this swing point here, and then we can discuss some pullbacks. Retesting this area here at 1.408 looks really good. For the next higher low, you can see how consistent we are with the higher lows. Should be looking to catch the next one and ride that momentum to the upside. If we do stay above 1.396, then I'm looking for that trend to continue. If for some reason we do break to the downside, break structure, then of course I would be looking at that fake out again. But because of the momentum coming in this week and the strong weekly candle closure, it doesn't look like we're about to get the fake out. It looks like we're about to see continuation here. So more interested in the buys. Keep an eye on this area. 1.409 looks good, and hopefully you can trade it back to highs next week. Okay, so over to Euro Pound. So Euro Pound, I am still very bullish on Euro Pound because the monthly chart is still trading in a massive area of support. So as long as we're staying above this area, I am looking to buy the market, looking for bigger swings to the upside. We very much could break through, but I'd wait for that confirmation first on the higher time frame, strong candle closures below. Then I'll start talking about potentially the breakout. But for now, we're still firmly in that area of support. So I'm looking for opportunities to long Euro Pound. However, not really seeing much of that. We've got the lows here, prices respecting a few bounces on that area. We also had this 0.83 area, which had some nice buying opportunities the past few weeks, but we're now broken through and starting to hold as resistance. So for me to be looking to long the market, I need to see some new highs being created, preferably above these highs here. That'll be an indication that, okay, we're seeing some characteristics of bullish behavior, breaking through highs, and then I'll be looking at some pullbacks. Not necessarily to be looking to take it all the way back to some big targets. I just want to look to take advantage of a small piece of the pie, because overall Euro Pound's a choppy pair, and it's not really a pair which I'll look to hold a trade for the long run, because I know it could be stuck in consolidation, price reject resistance a lot. So it's not a market which I'll be looking to swing like a yen pair. But if I can see some evidence of price breaking through some highs, I'll be a lot more confident getting into some buys. And again, I wouldn't be looking for anything too crazy, maybe just back into resistance, and then we can call it a day. You can always trail stops with some small positions if you do expect price to continue further. But we're still in that monthly area of support, looking for buys. I want price to be taking out some highs, and then hopefully 0.83 could be a nice area we could look to buy again. If it's a really big break of structure, maybe even look at some buys on the top of that. But as long as we maintain that monthly level of support, I'm looking for buys. If we have a big bearish week next week and we drop below and we get a strong close in the weekly chart below as well, then I can reassess things and maybe talk about some shorts. But for now, still looking at some buys. First, do you want to see that big break of structure to the upside, and then hopefully some buys around 0.83 or 0.837 next week. Okay, so over to Aussie dollar. So we've finally hit 0.64. This is the area which I said I'm looking for buys from. As we can see, two prior occasions, really big bounces from these areas, big rejections. So I'm looking for that to happen a third time. Again, not necessarily a move all the way back to the high, or that could be the case, but I'm looking just to see if I can get a small piece of the pie, a reaction off that area, and some buys. But first, I do want to see some evidence that structure is shifting, similar to what we saw in Euro USD, some higher lows, hopefully a break of structure, and we can see some higher highs after that. I'm looking for the same situation, same characteristics on the Aussie dollar as well. If you can see some equal lows, higher highs, that's what I'm looking to see before I do start looking for some entries. All I can say right now with Aussie dollar is that we're in a good area to be looking for buys. As we saw in the daily chart, two prior really nice reactions from that area. Of course, support and resistance doesn't hold all the time. We do break through. So if we don't see that structure shift, we very much could break through the level. And then we have to reanalyze and go from there. But if you do see some evidence that price is stalling, breaking highs, seeing higher lows, could be some nice buying opportunities next week. And we can let's take that to the upside. And I would like this area here. It's proven to be sturdy support on the left and resistance. So 0.654 is an area which price seems to be very interested in, and an area where at least looking to manage the trade will make a lot of sense. So that's kind of what I'm looking for Aussie dollar, looking for buys because of where we're trading. No buy opportunity just yet, so need to stay patient for that, but hopefully something can show up next week for some opportunities to take this to the upside. But that is the plan for Aussie dollar going into next week. Okay, so over to NZD CAD. So I'm still looking for a big break of this descending channel on the daily chart, but because of last week's candle closure and of course this week's candle closure, we're back above that trend line. So you can see we have this higher time frame ascending structure. I'm looking for a big break to the downside, which we did get a couple of weeks ago, but we closed straight back above last week, and then this week we just kind of got more or less a doji almost, but a wick to the downside, confirming price is still holding that trend line as support. So potentially we are going to hold this area and see a big swing to the upside. That could be the case. And if that is the case, then I do want to see price break out of this descending channel on the 4-hour chart, make some new highs above that, and then we can start to discuss some longs. Because if we are going to break to the upside, there could be a really big move on for us, but we are still seeing lower lows and lower highs, and we haven't really broken structure to the upside yet. So if we are going to hold this area, see a higher low, potentially this is a inverse head and shoulder pattern starting to form, left head, right shoulder. Let's make some new highs, find the higher low and the retest of that structure, and then we can talk about some entries to take this to the upside. We got numerous targets to look at, previous high over there, and of course the swing high back at around 0.858 as well. So there could be some nice buys in store for New Zealand CAD. I was expecting the break of that weekly/daily channel, but it doesn't look like it's happening just yet, and we might be in for another bounce. And if we are, let's break the highs first, then we can find some pullbacks, and hopefully we can ride it back to the highs, similar to what happened here. Nice break, pullbacks, and a continuation back to the high, looking for a similar pattern in that area. So that's the idea there with NZD CAD. Hopefully you can get a break of 0.83, find some pullbacks afterwards, and let's take that back to the highs next week. Okay, so over to pound NZD. So very, very bullish week for this one. I was looking for my buys around 2.125. Unfortunately, didn't quite happen. Price kind of stalled around the 2.145 area before breaking really aggressively to the upside. Again, I was just looking to try and catch the next higher low, which did form just maybe 50 pips, 100 pips higher than expected. It looks like price is pushing back into the high there. So in terms of the swing trade, I think that is now gone. In terms of more intra-week, intraday trades, might see some nice opportunities with all this momentum. We just created some new highs just about past that point. Then the left, at least with the wicks, I don't think we saw a candle closure, maybe a small one, but not quite. So we might see some retracement before we do push higher. I like this area here because we did stall for a few hours, a couple of days really, before we did have another strong push to the upside. So I pull back like this to retest that area of demand support, could be a nice area to look for some entries to take it to the upside and ride that momentum back to 2.19, where we do have that daily, weekly swing high. You can see I marked it, marked the high there in the chart, and we could see some new highs past that point as well. So the market's definitely very bullish. Weekly, daily, 4-hour chart all showing bullish momentum. So the idea is to keep looking for buys until we make that that new swing high is taken out, and then probably might see a bigger pullback after that. But for now, still expecting a bit more upside, and this looks like a nice area for entries, maybe in the hourly time frame, 30-minute time frame, to take it to the upside with some healthy risk reward as well. So that's still the plan there for pound NZD going into next week. Okay, so over to CAD Yen. So CAD Yen still very bearish on this one. Again, another yen pair looking for a big move to the downside. We are holding into very important levels on the weekly chart. As you can see, resistance over here, resistance over there again. Massive fake out to the upside, and again holding as resistance. So you got your head and shoulder pattern, left, head, right, shoulder. So I'm looking for price to come right back into that swing low, and probably a lot further as well. But you can see with the last week's candle close, really bearish there. This week as well, still confirming that momentum. Not such a significant close, but definitely a bearish close, still confirming that bearish momentum is still alive in the weekly chart. So in terms of probability, there's a very high chance we do get back to that swing low at 103,500. So the idea is on the lower time frames, just looking for those pullbacks to short. I've highlighted a few areas which I do like. This one being 109,500, I do really like that. That was initially the area I'm looking to short from, and still is. But again, as we spoke with dollar yen, we haven't got to pound yen yet, but we'll get to that in a moment. But with the other yen pairs, there's just so much momentum in the market. We're just not going to see those bigger pullbacks, unfortunately. I did mention this area here last week is a nice area as well, but doesn't look like we're going to test that area. And if we do make some new lows past this point, I think this area here looks good. 107, retest that consolidation for the next continuation, and that's probably the more realistic opportunity you're going to see with dollar yen, with us being so bearish and all this momentum. So yeah, we might just not see those bigger pullbacks we're after, or at least I'm after anyway. If you're in the lower time frames, you're probably looking more so at these areas. If you're operating on the 4-hour and above, probably looking at some of the deeper pullbacks, which may not come around. But yeah, the market is very bearish in terms of direction. I think it looks pretty clear. So the idea is just to find those pullbacks, look for those entries, and take it to the downside. These are the three areas I like: 107, 108, and 109. And yeah, just about monitoring price, waiting for those pullbacks to rise and finding entries. But that will be the plan next week for CAD Yen. Let me just move this into place. There we go. So that's the plan next week for CAD Yen. Okay, so over to pound USD. So another USD pair I'm pretty bullish on, looking for more upside. Again, I spoke on the weekly time frame a few times. We're looking for that next higher low. It does look like we're in that vicinity where another higher low could be forming, especially if USD does hold on to that 107 mark and we do continue that bearish move on the 4-hour. Probably going to see more upside for pound USD as well. This one has broke structure a while ago now, and we also broke structure to the upside again this week. So we are starting to see some higher highs and higher lows creeping into the market, which is a good sign for the buyers. Pretty strong bearish candle close there on Friday off the back of NFP, so we might see a bit more downside here for pound, but I still like the longs as long as we respect structure. This higher low looks good around 1.264. Can base some trades off there. Healthy place for a stop loss as well, and hopefully you can ride that back to 1.285, which is still the target of where I'm looking for price to get to. I mean, if we are going to form the higher low in the weekly chart, we could potentially run back to the highs there. So there's a lot of upside opportunity with pound, but equally so, I think this area still looks healthy for some shorts. Really strong break to the downside. We haven't yet come back for the retest, and because there's still a lot of bearish momentum in the market, and this up move is still pretty corrective, I would like there to be a little bit more bullish momentum if I'm going to be a little bit more picky, because if we were seeing some heavy bullish momentum, it would be a sign that, okay, the reversal is a bit more likely. But because we're still quite corrective on the way up and there's still a lot of momentum to the downside, this might just be a correction for price to continue falling, which is why I like the shorts there as well. Again, kind of looking to play both sides of the market, but I like the buys here, 1.265, like the sells there, 1.285. Let's see how price develops next week, but that is the plan going into next week. Okay, so over to pound CAD. So pound CAD was a pair I was focusing a lot last week, looking for some shorts, never really came around. I was looking for a lower high to develop and a move down. We broke through some structure not long ago, really heavy move to the downside after nice double top. So the idea was looking for that first lower high for hopefully the continuation of a bearish trend. However, really strong move to the upside. Price is looking very bullish there for pound CAD. Of course, after NFP, I think we had unemployment rates for CAD as well. So it just gave us a really strong push to the upside for pound CAD. So at this moment in time, it does not look like we're going to get that lower high, and it does look like that momentum will carry us back to the highs here, the equal highs here at 1.812 roughly. So that's kind of where I'm looking for price to get to. So on the other side, it does look like there could be some nice longs from this area. It looked good for some shorts this week, but didn't really hold, didn't give me the confirmations I was looking for. Price is broken through. So on the flip, this looks like a nice place to buy from now and take to the upside back to the equal highs there at 1.812 and possibly some new highs there as well. But this looks like the more probable move now. This looks like a big V-shaped pattern to me. Big impulse down, big impulse up. Maybe not the cleanest one in the world and not the most impulsive one, but it kind of fits the pattern. Strong move down, strong move right back up, reverse on a dime almost. So yeah, there's a good chance we do push back to 1.812, 1.815, and possibly some new highs after that. So that is now the new plan going into next week for pound CAD. Okay, so over to pound yen. So pound yen still very bearish on. Another yen pair, which I'm expecting more downside. Again, high time frames, you see a lovely move to the downside over the past few days. A lot of momentum, a lot of bearish momentum in the market at the moment. The idea is I'm looking for the continuation of this big drop in July. This to me looks like a big correction of that, and I'm expecting the market to spill over and come back and retest those prior lows at 182. So in my book, there's still a lot of downside to be had with pound yen. Dropping to the 4-hour chart, if I map out a fib from the recent high to the recent low, so you can see we do have a really nice area here lining up for 0.618, retesting that prior swing low. I'm looking for a bit more upside next week for pound yen, shorts around 194, and then push right back down to where we came from. And the idea is to hopefully hold on to it back down to 183, but back to that low looks like a reasonable place to secure some profits. And at least manage the trade, trail stops to break even, however you want to do that. But of course, there is a world where we do bounce from here and push up, but I do think there's a good chance we do break through. So the idea with pound yen is hopefully you can get a bit more of a pullback next week, find some shorts around 194. The idea is to try and catch the next lower high, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hopefully number 5 can present itself around those areas, and we take it back to the low at 182, and you're looking at a pretty big drop, about 1,000 pips there to the downside. So it's not a small move we're looking for in pound yen, and it is backed by the higher time frame. So if that can play out, that'll be fantastic. But that is the plan next week for pound yen. Okay, so over to gold. So gold's still not my favorite pair at this moment in time. I think silver looks a lot better in terms of the opportunities, but I still do like, to a degree, this short opportunity around 26.80. If we can get a push back to the high, I think that looks really good. The market's been very corrective. You can see we've just been taking out these highs on the lower charts, and every time we do that, we kind of revert back on ourselves. So the price can go and take up this high as well. I would expect the same push up, and the price does spill over, especially come back into a strong area of supply where we stalled for a few hours. Big break to the downside, really big bearish candle there. And if you do zoom out, you can see it does line up pretty well with this area of resistance as well. So that adds to the confluence of the trade. So I do like the shorts. The only thing with gold is that I'm still pretty bullish on the higher time frames. I'm still looking to take gold back to the all-time highs eventually, but the structure is not quite there yet. We had a really big impulse to the downside. We still might see another drop. I know price is having a really tough time holding at this level of support at 26.20. In fact, if you do get some shorts there, that's probably where you want to target, or at least take a chunk of your profit at, because price is having it really hard to try and break through that level. And if we do break to the upside next week and go and take out the highs on the left here at 27.20, that's when we've got some bullish structure back into the market, and at that point I'll start to eye up some bullish opportunities to take price back to the high. But we're still a long way away from that, so I'm not going to discuss that in too much detail because there is no setup there. Maybe next week we could be speaking about that, but for now this is more the realistic and a really nice opportunity. Just I wouldn't be looking for anything crazy because gold is a bit of a tough read right now. So that's the idea with gold, looking for some shorts around 26.70, 26.80, back down to 26.20, and then we'll go from there. But that's the plan next week for gold. Okay, so over to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, looks like we've got a bit of consolidation on our hands here. This is the daily chart. We've got equal highs here just below 100k. So although we did go and hit 100k this week, we're not really sustaining those prices. And as you can see, I've dragged that resistance level across and price is stalling there. So what I do want to see from Bitcoin before I do anticipate more upside is a strong close above these highs here on the daily chart, because that'll be an indication that, okay, we've had a nice impulse, the market's having a bit of a breather. Now we're back in that bullish mode again, and we can probably see a lot higher prices. If anything, price could still stall here like we had yesterday. Price tried to close above, failed to do that. We could very much sell off back into the lower end of that range and maybe form a larger range. So Bitcoin is a little bit tight at the moment to hit the 100k, so pat on the back for that. But we do want to see higher prices, and a signal for that will be price breaking through the high. So that's the key thing I'll be looking for, not on the 4-hour chart, not on the hourly chart, but on the daily chart. The daily does confirm momentum's back in the market, strong close. Then there could be some really nice break and retest opportunities on this area to take it to the upside. Again, in terms of targets, it's difficult to gauge, but the idea is you probably want to trail stops anyway. You don't know how far Bitcoin can go, so you want to be open to that and really let yourself take advantage of a big win if it does come around. But if we stay in this range, I would pause. But if we can get a solid close above and some retest, there could be some nice buys that follow maybe next week, whenever it happens. But that's the idea of Bitcoin. So keep an eye on 100k ish. It's kind of the big level really in the market. But if we do break above on the daily, could be some really nice buys in the breakout next week. Okay, so over to our bonus pair this week. It is CHF JPY, another yen pair, but I can't get enough of the yen at the moment. I'm very bearish on them. Opportunities look good, momentum's in the market. So the idea is looking to find those pullbacks and ride that momentum. We had a big break of structure not long ago on the weekly chart, taking out these lows here. I'm looking at this being that first major lower high in comparison to the high over there. So if that is going to be the first lower high, expect us to come right back into the low and possibly see some new lows as well. And I really like CHF JPY because on the monthly chart, we have taken out the all-time highs. As you can see on the left here, if I zoom out, that is a high from 1979, believe it or not. We've actually taken that out. So I do think naturally the market is due a bit of a pullback anyway. And of course, with that break of structure on the weekly chart, the lower high formation and the lower time frames, it does look good for some shorts. So I'm looking at some pullbacks back into this area, 172.5, strong resistance, strong support, and hopefully we can come back and retest that same area. If I do whip out the Fibonacci from the high to the low, you can see it does line up pretty well with the 0.6, 0.18, 0.5 area, which is always a healthy place to take some shorts to try and catch that next lower high. So that's the idea with CHF JPY, looking for a retest of structure there and looking to swing it back into the prior low. But hopefully we can push a little bit further back into 165,500, which is where we got that weekly swing low at as well. So there's a lot of room to the downside. Markets be making consecutive lower highs here. So as long as we can keep that up, you know, looking for the next one, and hopefully we can participate in that next bearish move. And if price for some reason has a really big move and takes out this high, then I'll form my hands up and yeah, rethink that bearish bias. But for now, still looking at this as a pullback for more downside. So that is the plan next week for CHF JPY. And guys, that does bring us to the end of the analysis. If you have found it useful, please be sure to drop a like on the video. It does really help out. Subscribe to the channel, and of course hit the bell whilst you're at it so you don't miss out on any streams or uploads in the future. Comment down below any markets you're looking to take advantage of next week? I'm interested to find out. But guys, really appreciate you tuning in. Have a great weekend, and I'll catch you all in the next one.